All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. We'll go ahead and get started here. If you got your questions, go ahead and post them. It's either going to be below the video if you're on a mobile device. If you're on a desktop, laptop, computer, something like that, it's going to be to the right of the video. So I always start with questions that were asked up to an hour before office hours starting. So it's going to be Thomas J. Is who I'm going to be starting with, talking about tendency to pull hooks. So if you happen to post your question before 10 a.m. Eastern time today, no worries. All you have to do is copy and paste your question in there, and I'll get it answered. The reason why I do that is I just want to try to answer questions for people who I think are actually here waiting to see their question get answered. So that's the reason why I do that. So I typically won't make it back to those if we get enough questions, but it's possible I may come back to Jerome S., Timothy D., some of the questions that came in, after the fact yesterday or earlier this morning. So without further ado here, we'll start here with Thomas J. Thomas J says, question on irons, tendency to pull hook when I swing hard and turn handle in order to get more forward shaft lean. I achieve the best smash factor, but lose accuracy to the left. I'm not coming over the top and am turning the handle too much when turning. Ball placement in the middle, any drills to prevent. So Thomas, are you sure you're not coming over the top? That's what I would say, because what you're describing is when people try to swing hard, usually they come over the top. And if you're swinging over the top and turning the handle down to close the face, you're going to hit it to the left. The only other option would be that you're just turning down the handle too much. But the most likely thing that you're doing is you actually are coming over the top. So I would actually, have you confirmed on video that you're not coming over the top? It may not feel like you're coming over the top, but you may actually be coming over the top. So basically what's happening here, and this happens all the time when people try to swing hard, is that because most of our power comes from our upper body. If you think about your arms, 80-85% of your speed comes from your arms. If I didn't move anything, if I sat in a chair and kept my hips isolated and didn't turn my hips at all, and all I did was just kind of use the ground to brace against and swing my arms, I would be able to get 85 to 80% of my speed. Generally I'm around 117, 118. I could probably swing about 95 miles an hour with just arms only. So I imagine you could too. If you're around 100 miles per hour with your club head speed, I bet you could swing all arms, nothing else, not turning your hips or anything, and get 80 to 85% of your normal speed. So the reasoning why people tend to swing all arms and come over the top is because of that, because that's where most of the power comes from. It's easiest to get the power from that source. So most likely what's going on is you most likely are coming over the top when you're trying to swing hard. And I would just video your swing to make sure. The way to kind of make sure of that is if you have the right camera angle. That's really key for this as well. As if you don't have the right camera angle, it's difficult to see the path of your club. Ball doesn't lie, though. We've heard that before. Ball doesn't lie. I guess it could if you have a range ball that's all cut up in chunks. It could do something weird. But assuming a normal range ball, right, the ball's not going to lie. If it's starting left and hooking more left, that means that your face is closed to your path and or you're hitting it way off the toe. But if you're hitting it off the toe, what tends to happen is the ball will actually start a little bit more to the right than it normally would. Doesn't mean it's going to start to the right, but it will tend to start more to the right than it normally would, because what happens is you'll hit it off the toe. All right, so we're getting a little bit all over the place here, but in general, you're most likely swinging over the top. You can check on video by making sure that your camera angle is correct. So when you look on video, I would place an alignment stick on the ground, pointed at your target, and then place your camera shooting right down the alignment stick. And then when you go to set up to the ball, have your hands directly above that alignment stick. It'll be like a couple inches in front of your toes, somewhere in that area. And that will give you the good camera angle to make sure. Now, what I see a lot of people do when they film their swing is they set it up down the target line. So they'll get it right down the golf ball. Well, if you're looking at your swing, and this may be what you've looked at and you feel like you're not coming over the top because it looks like you're not on video because the camera angle might be wrong. I don't know this, but it's just what I've typically seen. So if I'm coming over the top, all right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this thing lined up here. So if you look here, it looks like I'm not coming over the top, right? Because the club's right in line with my hands here. But if I got to where the camera angle was correct, now look at my club. I have not moved the club. All I've done was got the camera angle to be shooting where it should. Now look at the club. It's definitely over the top, right? So I would check your camera angle and make sure that you got it set up basically down your toe line, and then look and see where that club's coming down. What I'm guessing you're going to see when you're trying to swing hard is you're going to see this club over here. And then when the club is over here, it's going to be moving to the left when it comes into contact. And if you turn the handle down with that and close the face, well, you're just going to hit like a smothered hook to the left. So what I would try to do is try to swing more out to the right. And when you swing hard, I try to swing as much out to the right as you can while by turning that handle down as well, and get that ball to start to the right and curve to the left. That's what I'd be looking at doing. Just trying to swing as far out to the right as you can when you swing hard, and get that ball to start to the right and curve to the left. But most likely you are coming over the top. The only other option that could be going on is that you're just overdoing the turning of the handle. You may be swinging on plane, but you're just turning the handle down so much that the ball is starting to the left and curving more to the left. It's possible. So if that is the case, I would just ease off of that. I wouldn't turn the handle down so much. I would turn it down just a little bit. Maybe even feel like you're turning it down so little that it still starts off to the right. That's what I would try to feel like as you're working through it. All right, so Matthew W. says, I recently watched your video, NSA 12 golf swing inside out drills, and it has produced a beautiful draw with my irons. Love the concept and video, but I'm hooking my driver. Any ideas? You're just overdoing it. You're just overdoing it with the driver, so I just ease off of the feeling a little bit. So I would swing less into out and with less of a closed face. What we have to understand is what causes the ball to curve, right? What causes the ball to curve is your difference between your face and your path. So if your face is closed to the path, and when I say face and path, I'm talking about the direction the club face is pointing versus the direction the club head is moving through impact. So if my club face is square, right, and my path is moving out to the right with a square club face, my ball is going to start mostly straight, and then it's going to curve to the left because the ball is going to start in the direction of my club face and then curve away from my path. My face is closed to my path, so it's going to go to the left for a right-handed golfer. If I had my path was to the left, right, so my club was moving to the left, and my face was square at impact, that ball would start mostly straight, and then it would curve to the right. So that's really the relationship that was going on there. So what you're doing with your irons, it looks like you're getting it pretty close. You're swinging out to the right a little bit with the face a little bit closed to your path. So to put it in terms of degrees, you're probably, if you're hitting a nice draw, your path is probably 4 degrees into out, and then your face is probably 2 degrees to the right. So what that would do is that produce a draw that would start 2 degrees right of the target and then curve right and curve to the left at the target, right? So that's probably what's going on. Now with your driver, those numbers are off. Maybe with your driver, you're swinging 10 degrees into out with the face 2 degrees open, right? So now you have a face to path that's 8 degrees. That's going to produce a lot more curvature. So depending on what's going on in your swing, either the face and path relationship is off, right? So you need to hone that in. So what I would try to do is, if you're hooking it, if the ball is starting to the right and it's overhooking, then that means that your path is too much into out, right? So that's a path issue. If the ball is starting to the left and then hooking, it's most likely a face angle issue. You're getting the face too closed. So depending on what issue is which, then I would adjust accordingly. I would either try to swing more, if it's hooking because it's starting too far to the right and hooking to the left, then it's a path thing. But most likely you're just getting the face too close to the path. So I would just ease off on trying to close the face so much when you're coming into contact. So Brian B says, so the shallowing out is it a continuous motion concept rather than swing gait similar to tennis? Swing gait. I'm not familiar with swing gait. It appears a little like a small Furyk loop. Please demonstrate in slow motion. So it can be a little bit different for everybody. Really depends on the position of the club at the top. So if you have somebody who's like this, right, they're going to need to go like this to get the club shallowed out, right? If you have someone who's like this at the top, they're just going to need to kind of just drop their hands because the club head's already basically behind their hands. They just need to drop it down. So it really depends on the position that you're in at the top. Either way, no matter what position you are at the top, whether it's like a Jim Furyk, he's like this. So what he needs to do is he needs to get the club going like that, right? No matter what position you are in at the top, you want to get the club to here at lead arm parallel. They're all getting in that same position at lead arm parallel. Now, there's advantages and disadvantages to being in these certain positions. So let's say you're someone like Jim Furyk. Jim Furyk and Matt Wolff, for example, they bring this club up vertically. And what that does is that gets the forces working in this direction so that this club has momentum that's going more behind them. That makes for them, it works for them to get the club shallowing out. And you're exactly right. It's kind of a looping motion that's happening there. If you look at somebody like in Adam Scott or a Tiger Woods or Rory McIlroy, they're bringing this club up. It's already, the club's already basically behind them and shallowed out. All they have to do is shallow the hands, basically drop the hands down to get up. There's no real motion that they have to do. They don't have to do the turning of the doorknob or anything like that. It's really just bringing the hands back to that position. So it's going to be a little bit different depending on what your backswing looks like, with the position that you are at the top, the forces and everything that's going on there. It's going to be a little different for everybody. But no matter what, just like we do in the tennis racket drill, what we're trying to do is get the club shallowed out and square earlier to that lead arm parallel in the downswing. That's what we're trying to get to. So we're trying to exaggerate. We're trying to get the club as shallow as possible. So even if you're someone who's at this position at the top, because a lot of times what happens is you may be in this position at the top like a Rory or a Tiger, but when you start the downswing, you go like this, right? So what you need to feel like is that you're doing this, that you're shallowing out the club. You may literally only need to bring the club, the club's already basically shallowed out and you just need to bring the hands down, right? But that's not what you're actually doing in your swing. It may not be what you're actually doing in your swing. So you may actually be doing this. So you need to feel like you're doing this, right? So it's all about getting the club to be in this position right here. The actual position is this one, right? But we want you to exaggerate and really, really exaggerate and get the club shallowed out and the face square earlier in the swing, because that's what most people need to do. The best way to fix about any issue in the golf swing, no matter what you're doing, if you're doing something you don't want to do, you exaggerate the opposite, right? Even though the opposite's not the thing you want to do either. But if you exaggerate the opposite, like for example, we're talking about the move here, what we want to do is this, right? So it's the fault, feel, reel approach. The fault, let's say you have someone who's coming down, they're in a great position at the top, but then they come down like this, right? So they start down, the club's coming down steep. So that's the fault, right? The feel that they need to feel to stop doing this is they need to feel that it's this, right? That's not a good position to be in either, but it's the feel that you need to have. It's not the reality of what you're going to do, but it's the feel that you want to have. And then hopefully the reality is that it's more like this, right? That we're getting the club in a good shallow position that we want to be in. So fault, feel, reel. That's what we're trying to get to in really anything that you're trying to work on. Just like if you're trying to fix a slice, I would try to have you to swing 45 degrees into out. Now, would it be really good to actually swing 45 degrees into out? No, you don't want to do that either. That's just another problem. But it's a feel that you want to have that gets you to where you're on course. If you were coming down steep and then you just try to get here, it's not different enough from what you're already doing. You're not really going to move it. You might move it a half an inch in that direction. But if you want to accelerate your progress, what you want to do is you want to really, really exaggerate it. And then the worst thing that can happen is that you actually overdo it. And at that point, it's so easy just to ease off of it to go more toward what you're comfortable with. So that's one piece of advice that I would recommend for everybody. If you're working on something in your golf swing, especially if it's a movement or something like that, is I would really, really try to exaggerate as much as possible what you're doing. Because honestly, the worst thing that can happen is that you'll overdo it. And then at that point, all you have to do is ease off of it. If you just try to get into the position, the end position that you're trying to get into, it's not different enough for you to really make much of a difference. Usually it's not. It's usually not different enough for you to really make any difference because it's too close to what you're already doing, most likely, to get there. And really, what's going to feel like it's crazy, really exaggerated, is probably going to be most likely going to be very close to where you want to be. Even though it feels like it's something crazy, it's most likely going to be pretty much where you want to be. So that would be my best advice. So the move. So just to answer your question in short, as far as how you shallow the club or what you need to do to shallow the club, that's technically going to be different for everybody depending on the position and the forces and everything going on at the top. But the position that you need to get into is going to be the same. And that's what we do in the tennis racket drill. So no matter where you are at the top, I'd be doing the tennis racket drill, which is from the move course, which is basically where you take the tennis racket. And you don't have to use a tennis racket. I just say use a tennis racket because it's a really great visual to see where the face is, because it's hard to tell where the face is, on a club when it's out in space. It's just hard to tell. This, it's obvious, right? The strings of the club is the face. So if you set up here, strings of the club pointing out at the target, I'm going up to the top, and as I'm starting down, I'm trying to get the strings pointing up to the sky and kind of toward the camera here at the same time. So that's the move. It's this, right? So that's the move. So if you look at here, I'm shallowing the club, so I'm getting the strings pointed to the sky, and then I'm turning the handle, which is getting the strings pointed out that way. So that's shallowing and squaring of the face. And then from there, I can really turn into the shot a lot more easily. So that's a great visual to help you to get there. So now where you are at the top, it may be a looping motion for you. Maybe you're like a Jim Furyk. You have the club like this, and you need to lay it down like that. Maybe you're like an Adam Scott, and you need to, basically just kind of lower the hands down to get it in the right position. Maybe you're like Ricky Fowler, who's really shallow in the backswing, and then actually has to steepen the shaft a little bit in the start of the downswing. No matter what, you need, because if you're here, right, and you're going like this to start the downswing, which is typically what happens when you're too shallow in the downswing, then you need to feel like you're here, and then you're here when you're starting down. So that drill is just to exaggerate to get you in the right positions. So Drew D says, on the downswing, explain the timing and on the effect of the body posture of pushing back against the ground with the left foot. By timing, I mean relative to the weight shift simultaneous with the post shift post. So I'm not sure exactly what you mean, Drew, but basically I'd be trying to shift your pressure to your lead foot in the last part of the backswing. So as you're going up to the top, about right here, this is where you're maxing out the pressure in your trail foot. And then that is when the pressure starts to transfer to your lead foot. The pressure actually starts to build in your lead foot in the last part of the backswing. So what most people are doing is they're loading up, loading up, loading up, loading up. The pressure is building all the way to the top of the swing. And then the arms start down, and then the pressure doesn't start transferring until basically right here in the downswing. By that time, it's too late. You're not putting enough pressure into the ground with your lead foot to be able to rotate. It's just the arms racing in front of the body. It's what I would call a false weight shift, where it's really just the momentum of your arms and the club that are bringing you around into a full finish. So what you really want is you want the momentum of your weight shift and your body pulling the club through and whipping the club through. That's what the most efficient ball strikers are doing. So that only happens if you are getting some momentum moving to your lead side in the last part of the backswing. So if you'd like to work on that and get that proper timing of that drill, I'd recommend working on the step drill. We have this drill in several videos on the website. The best one I would say for what you're trying to work on would be the how to start the downswing video. So you can find this video easily by searching the number for it. So the number for it, the code number is BR014, and that's Bob Ryan 014. To search it, it's very easily. If you're on a laptop, desktop computer, something like that, in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a little search box. Just search BR014. You'll find a video. It's called How to Start the Downswing. Clay goes over the step drill in that video. It's got some yellow lettering in the thumbnail. That's the one that you want. If you're on a mobile device, also very easy to find the search function. And this isn't just for what I'm talking about here. If you're ever looking for anything specific, so if you're trying to find videos on slicing or chunking or whatever it might be, just go to this search box and type it in. But to find it on mobile, very easy. Click the icon in the upper right-hand corner. It looks like 3 horizontal lines. If you select that, that will expand a menu. If you scroll down the bottom of that menu, you'll find the search box there, and just search BR014 to find that How to Start the Downswing video. That's going to help you to get that weight shift correct with what you're trying to do. So Louis V says, good morning. Can you demo the ideal position and backswing when club is parallel to the ground? And would it be the same for all clubs? Yeah, so basically when your lead arm is parallel to the ground. So there's a difference between ideal and functional, right? So what we have to understand is the further we are away from impact is where we can see more differences in the swing. So if you look at setup, you're going to see tour players there set up in all kinds of different ways. You're going to see all kinds of backswings. But the closer they get to impact is where they start to look more and more and more alike. The further you are away from impact is where you can see a lot more differences. So when you say ideal, it's not technically ideal. I can have the swing way over here, right? Because if you let's look at like a Matt Wolff, for example. Matt Wolff, when his lead arm is parallel to the ground, looks like this, right? Or he looks something like this, right? Would I say that that's ideal? Not necessarily. I wouldn't say that it's wrong either, because as he's coming down, he gets in a good position. If you look at JB Holmes in the backswing, he looks like this, right? So look at the difference there. Here's Matt Wolff. Here's JB Holmes. I mean, you can be anywhere in between there as long as you are, as long as you're bringing that club into the correct impact position. So basically what I'm saying is that your backswing sets up a good downswing. So me telling you need to be right here, this is ideal. Well, it might not necessarily be ideal for you. You may be better off having a swing like Matt Wolff or like JB Holmes. You can be anywhere in that range. So basically, lead arm parallel to the ground. Your hands are going to be, if you draw your elbow plane. So if you set up your camera here, set up a line, draw a line that goes from the hollows of the club up through your elbow. You would want those hands to be either just above that or on that elbow plane, right? So if the hands are way inside of that, you can make a great backswing or a great downswing from there. It's just not typically what I see. Typically what I see when you're way in here like this is that you're going to go like that. But if you're going way in like this and then you're coming down like that, then that's completely fine as long as you're coming down in the right position like a JB Holmes. Now this, right, you can have the hands way out here. This would be way above the elbow plane. And that would be completely fine too, as long as you're getting the club to come down in the right position in the downswing. But oftentimes when I see people to bring the club up like this, they also kind of bring the club down steep as well. So I wish I could tell you there's an ideal position right where you have to be, and you should go work on this to get in that right position, but it's just not true. What I'd be working on are the pieces of the Toss Speed Golf system. Everything, this is kind of the beauty of the Toss Speed Golf system. The Toss Speed Golf system are the 5 things in the swing that all tour players do. So if you look at Matt Wolff, you look at JB Holmes, you look at Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods, all of them are nailing these pieces of the Top Speed Golf system. These are the most important things in the golf swing. If you get these things down, then everything else is kind of your own swing signature, right? Everything else in between. So you can have a stable fluid spine, have your hands in all kinds of different places when they're parallel to the ground in the backswing. So this is where instruction kind of gets a little bit where people get a little bit off with things, because I know, Louis, you really want me to tell you this is where your hands have to be, but I'm not one who's just going to tell you a bunch of BS, basically, because it's just not true. You can have your hands in all kinds of places in the backswing. There's no ideal. Ideal is what gets you to a good impact position or creates a good downswing for you. So what I'd be looking at is the Top Speed Golf system and what position, and maybe fiddling around. If you feel like where you're at lead arm parallel in the backswing is stopping you from getting into a good position, then I would play around with it to get into a right position. I'm not saying that you could be, you being way over here is going to be good, or you way over here is going to be good. It just depends on what's going on in the downswing. So I wish I could tell you this is ideally where you have to be, but there's just there's nothing. That's not what I would call a universal truth, right? The Top Speed Golf system is universal truths. These are positions that you basically have to be in to be good. That's what all great players are in. If you look at that lead arm parallel position, the only thing I would say is you want to have your spine angle nice and angled away. You want to make sure you have a good turn to this point. But as far as the position of your hands and how much angle you have here, there's all kinds of variants there that you can play well with. You just have to find what works best for you. So Ali S says, want to clarify, will shallowing the swing path on downswing will cause the inside out swing path? It will definitely help. I mean, if you're shallowing out the club, that gets the club to be working more from the inside. But you can see here, I can have the club out here and then shallow the club, and that's not working from the inside, right? So it can, absolutely, and it should. If all things equal, it does get the club working more this way, more behind the hands, which is from the inside. But you can manipulate it and turn your body and make your body in a situation that would make you still come over the top or something else. But generally, yes, shallowing the downswing, shallowing the club in the downswing is going to help you to swing more inside to outside. So first name, L, I think this is Larry, says Q pulling short irons early in the round, but seems to clear up as the round progresses. No curve on the ball with a miss about 5 yards left. Larry, as you know from the Ball Striking Masterclass, which I think that's who this is from the Ball Striking Masterclass. If it's not, I apologize. But if you're pulling the ball, that is a product of your club path being left, right? So if you're right-handed, that's a product of the club path being left. So maybe for some reason, in the beginning of your round, maybe you're not very loose or something like that. You tend to swing a little bit over the top. So I would just be a little bit more cognizant of that and understand early in the round as I'm starting to get maybe my body a little bit more warmed up, I need to feel like I'm swinging more end out. And maybe try to feel like you're hitting a push out to the right. And then as you start to get more warmed up, you'll probably start hitting a little bit of a push, and then you can ease off of that feeling a little bit. But like I said, your path is just moving a little bit to the left, so I just try to feel like you're swinging more into out as you start your round. So Anthony A says, for quickest improvement, do you recommend working through all levels of each TSG element, or is it better to limit first level of all elements? You can really do either or. I've seen people make great improvements doing it either or. So you can either go, stable fluid spine, then, level 1, level 2, level 3, and then go to power turn, level 1, level 2, level 3. You can do it that way, or you can do it where you do stable fluid spine level 1, then you go to power turn level 1, then you go to lag level 1. You can do it either way. It's really completely up to you. Some people prefer to do it so that way they're not working on the same thing basically for a long period of time. If you feel like you're going to be able to stick with it, if you do that, then it may be the going through each level 1 through each one may be the right ticket for you. But if you don't want to do that and you just kind of make sure you have the stable fluid spine right, and then you have the power turn right, then I'll go through level 1, level 2, level 3. So it's really either or. You can do either or. I would say the rate of improvement is going to be basically the same with both of them. So there's not one that's better or faster than the other. I've seen people make great success doing it both ways. So it's really just your personal preference, however you want to do it. All right, so Chad B says, can you please demonstrate a drill to have higher hands and without letting the club get so far past parallel? So the club can go past parallel. That's completely fine. I wouldn't worry about that. I mean, if you look at, there's a lot of great hitters out there that go way past parallel. So that wouldn't be something that I'd be too concerned with. But as far as high hands are concerned, what I'd recommend is the skyscraper drill. So there's a couple feelings that I would try to have. One, what we have to understand is what brings the club up to the top. What gets the hands high? And really what that is just this. It's just, if you can do a touchdown signal, right, then you can get your hands up high. So if maybe if you can't, if you bring your hands up like this and you got resistance, then you may have some there's a shoulder limitation there that doesn't allow you to get your hands up high. But if you can do a touchdown signal, keep your arms dead straight and not really arch your back like this to do a touchdown signal. If you can just bring your arms up straight over your head like this and not really feel any tightness or anything, then you're going to have no issue getting your hands up high. So what we have to understand is that's what we're doing, is we're lifting the arms up. So there's horizontal components in the golf swing. So the horizontal components are going to be the rotation, right? The rotation of our hips and the rotation of our rib cage and our shoulders. Those are the horizontal components of the swing. That's what gets the rotational. That's part of what gets the club back. So if you think about it this way, if I have no lifting of my arms at all, I don't lift my arms at all, here's what my golf swing looks like. All right? I didn't lift my arms up at all. All I did was rotate my hips and my shoulders. So my hips are rotated about 45 and my shoulders are rotated about 90. But there's no lifting component of the swing. So now imagine I take the rotational aspect out of it. I don't rotate my hips and I don't rotate my shoulders or anything like that. The golf swing would then look like this, right? It's just lifting the arms. So what we have to understand is if you're having trouble getting the hands up high, then you're not doing the lifting component of the swing. So what I would try to feel like is that you're doing a touchdown at the top of the swing. Touchdown at the top. That's what I'd be trying to feel like, is that you're really just doing a touchdown signal. All right, so I'd be trying to feel like you're trying to touch your fingertips to the sky when you're doing the touchdown signal. So when you do the rotation along with that looks something like this, right? So I'm getting the hands up high. Now, a good feeling to maybe help you to be able to get into this top of the swing position is you can do a drill, and there's also the skyscraper drill from the 20-minute distance fix, which we'll talk about where you can get to that in a minute. But basically, you get up into your normal setup position, right? Hinge the club 90 degrees. So I'm going to hinge the club 90 degrees like this. I'm going to stay in my golf posture here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist the handle, right? So that's flattening my lead wrist and then bending back my trail wrist. What that's doing is that's closing the face, right? So this is my impact position, all right? So if I'm like this and I just push the handle forward, if you can't see the face there, if I'm in my normal address position and then I push the handle forward, that opens the face. So I need to turn the handle to square it up when I have forward shaft length. So that's what that is. I'm just turning the handle down to square. That's squaring up the face. I'm closing the face, but that's squaring the face when I have forward shaft length. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my touchdown, and I'm going to get my hands up over my right shoulder. So going just like that. right? So now I lift the club up over my right shoulder. I'm still maintaining my golf posture. Now I'm going to rotate my hips 45 degrees and then my shoulders. And now I'm in that nice high hands position. Let's look at it from this angle. Hinge up 90 degrees. Turning the handle to close the face. Now I'm taking the club up over my right shoulder. And I would just go as far up over my right shoulder as I can. Let's go way, way up there to get the hands really, really vertical. And then I'm going to turn my hips, turn my shoulders, and there I am. I'm at the top of my swing position. This is really, really super vertical. That's Bubba Watson vertical-esque. So if you do some of those drills that kind of give you a sense of where you should kind of be at the top of the swing, it can help you to get there, right? But what we have to understand is what gets the arms vertical is touchdown signal, all right? So that's what I'd be trying to feel like, is that I'm doing a touchdown signal at the top. Try to feel like you're getting your fingertips up in the air, or you're getting your knuckles up in the air. This is what Clay talks about in the skyscraper drill. Another good feeling is to feel like you're in a box and you're trying to punch through the ceiling of the box. So you're kind of going up like that. I'm punching through the ceiling. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm going like this. The only difference is now I'm swinging up like that. That's what I want to feel like, is that the club's going up, 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 instead of around my body. It's going more up, 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 like that. So that's a skyscraper drill. If you want to work on the skyscraper drill, just search. Actually, it's easier probably just to go to the 20-minute distance fix course. It's in week 3. So to get the 20-minute distance fix course, select the instruction tab, then select 20-minute distance fix, and then go to week 3 of the 20-minute distance fix. You'll see the skyscraper drill there. All right, so let's keep on moving here. So Tom S. says, I started to get my hands in front of the club at impact, but I still feel that my hands flip slightly through impact. What's a good drill? Thanks. I'd be working through all the drills in the straight line release course. The straight line release course are all about getting you to release this club more out in front. So if you're flipping, that's just from an early release, right? That's the hands passing, the club head passing in front of the hands too soon. We want that club head to be passing in front of the hands about 45 degrees out in front, and that's what Clay talks about in the straight line release course. So if you want to work on that flip, probably the straight line release course is going to be the best place to work on that. So a bunch of drills to get you to where the hands are getting more in front at impact, and then the club head's not overtaking the hands too soon. So check it out. It's in the straight line release course. To get to the straight line release course, select the instruction tab at the top, then select Top Speed Golf System, then select the straight line release course and get started on the drills. So Timothy D says, Q, you have talked about technique and skill. Can you talk about the difference? Yeah, so technique is basically the way that you're moving your body, or the way that you're maneuvering and getting the club. It's the physical things that are going on. Skill is your ability to control those things, right? So maybe you're in a great spine angle, right? Most of the time, but you have trouble controlling the path of your club. So that would be developing the skill to hit fades and draws and to control those things. So technique is the way your body moves, and having good technique is the way the body moves. And then your skill is basically your ability to control those things. So a lot of times people ignore skill because skill is not something you can physically see, right? It's kind of like electricity, right? If you think about it in this way, your technique is your mechanics of your swing, and the skill is like the electricity, the ability to control those mechanics. So if you kind of think about it in that way, that's why people ignore skill a lot of times, and they always think it's something technical that they need to do, when the reality is that a lot of times the technical is good. It's just that you don't know how to control it, right? You just don't have a very good control of that. Golf is a game of millimeters. I mean, you miss the golf ball one dimple off, it can be a big difference in where that golf ball is going to go. So you have to be able to control that, and your technique is what sets you up, what makes it easier to control those things. But if you have good technique, then you need to work on skill. So typically when I get a student, I have they tell me what their handicap is, right? And they will look at their swing. A lot of times I'll have students that are like 20 handicaps, but they have the golf swing, they have the mechanics, the technique of a single digit handicap player, or even like a scratch player. And I see this all the time. And they really think that there's something technical in their swing that they need to be doing. And the reality is that they really just need to build their skill. They need to, the technical is there, it's good, but the skill isn't necessarily the best. Now, you may have some people on the opposite, right? You may have some people that don't really have a very good technical swing, but they have very good hand-eye coordination, and they're able to have a high degree of skill that helps them overcome their poor technique. I'm sure all of you have people at your club, wherever you play, that have somebody that has a terrible looking golf swing, but goes out and just whoops you every single time, right? Your golf swing looks so much better than theirs, but they whoop you because they're highly skilled with what they're doing, right? So that's basically what you want to have, that good balance. The best golfers in the world are the ones that have great technique, are super highly skilled, and have plenty of speed. Those are basically the three areas that you want to look at. So on the website, we're covering you in all those places, right? We have the technique side, and there's going to be some overlap, but on the technique side, we have the Top Speed Golf System. These are the technical pieces that all great golfers do, right? If you have these technical pieces down, if you have a stable fluid spine, if you have a good shoulder turn, if you have some lag in the swing, if you have a good compression line, if you have a good straight line release, we'll throw the move in there as well as a great technical piece. If you have that, if you have those pieces in order, then your technique is good. Those are really the main things of the technique that really need to be in order to make things a little bit easier. If those things look pretty good in your swing, and you're a high handicap player, then you are lacking skill and or speed. So the technical part would be the Top Speed Golf System plus the move. The skill level portion of the website would be our ball striking masterclass. So that's how we talk about. We do very little technical training in the ball striking masterclass. It's basically all learning how to control your face angle, your club path, the direction the club head is moving, the strike on the face, right? Controlling your strike location, and then your ground contacts, controlling where you come down and hit the ground. So that's our ball striking masterclass. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's an additional course that we offer on the website. We offer enrollment into it every month or two. If you are in a warm weather climate, right now, then you may get an opportunity to sign up here in the next month or two. If you're somewhere where it's cold, like you're in the Dakotas or Northeast, or in the north in the United States, then in the springtime will be when you'll have an opportunity to take that. We just don't offer it to those folks in that time because no one ever really buys it because they can't use it. All right. So yeah, you'll have an opportunity to do it there. And then when you're looking for speed, let's say that you don't miss any fairways. Your technique is really good. You have great control of your face, your path. Your skill is very high. You swing 80 miles per hour. You just don't hit the ball very far, right? Well, if that's the case, then the speed system is going to be, the speed's going to be the best thing for you to help you to take you to the next level. Even if your technique isn't very high, or your skill isn't very good, speed can still help you to take you to the next level. So those are basically the three areas. If I look at the three pillars of instruction that are the most important, you have technique, which is your Top Speed Golf System. Then you have your skill, which is the ball striking masterclass. Then you have your speed. If you're working on any three, as far as the full swing is concerned, if you're working on any three of those areas, you're going to improve your golf game. Now, you just want to be careful if your technique is good, if you're nailing the technique pieces, which you can clearly see on video, then work on those other pieces. Work on the speed. Work on the skill level type training. if you're pretty good there, because that's what's really going to help you the most. So hopefully that helps. Let me know if you have any further questions about that, but that's basically the differences there. So David F says how to choose bounce and grinds on wedges, shopping for new wedges. Also how to choose steel or composite shafts. So the only way to know what clubs are going to be right for you are to go get professionally fitted. There's no way for me to know what bounce and grinds you need. You just need to get professionally fitted. A lot of it's going to depend on the conditions that you play in. The lofts that you need is going to depend on all kinds of things. The way to know for sure is to just go get professionally fitted. So in general, if you play in more plush, wet conditions, more bounce is typically better on wedges. If you play in very tight and dry conditions most of the time, then less bounce may be a little bit better. I generally try to get people to go more toward the more bounce side, just because it just makes things easier to hit. If it gives you more margin for error. Now on most shots, you're not really trying to use the bounce. You're not trying to use the bounce. On a bunker shot would be about one of the only shots, or a flop shot would be about the only shots where you're actually trying to use the bounce of the wedge. But really pitches and chips and stuff around the green, that bounce is really meant for you. It's meant to kind of save you, to give you a little bit of margin for error. If you do happen to hit it a little bit thick, it can maybe bounce off there and help you get through. And it's also to help you kind of get through the turf, right? So the club doesn't just dig into the turf. It's to help you get through the turf after you struck the ball. So that's if you really want to know what works best for you, whether it's composite shafts or steel shafts or bounce and grinds and all that stuff, you got to go get professionally fitted. I go get a wedge fitting. Most places where you buy clubs, reputable places where you buy clubs. So you talk about, PGA Store or Golf Galaxy. A lot of times they'll offer fittings. You can get fittings there. So if you want to know what actually you want to get fitted, or you want to know what's going to be the best for you, you have to go get fitted. There's just no way to know. The other way is to trial and error. Like if you have the means to buy a bunch of different wedges and try them out and see what works best for you, then that's another way to do it. But that can get pretty expensive, buying $200, $150 wedges over and over and over to try to find the best one. So you really have to go. Now, if you're looking for a place to go and get a good fitting, I'd recommend Club Champion. I don't have any affiliation with Club Champion, but I know I've been to a few fittings. I've been to the one here in Orlando, and I've been to the one, and I think there's two in Chicago, and I've been to one of those. Great experience, and they get you on TrackMan. They get you, they'll try different things they do trial and error with you hitting shots right there in the bays and so on and so forth. So if you're looking to get fitted, that'd be a great place to go. And one thing is about there too, is you can just pay for the fitting. You don't have, I think a wedge fitting probably costs like $100. Maybe not even that. But you don't have to buy the clubs from them. They offer that, but you don't have to buy the clubs from them. If you want to go there and get a fitting and then go find a used club somewhere that fits your specs that you need, then that's fine. So that's what I would be. That's what I'd be going to do to check out, is to go get a fitting. No PGA Store, you can get it there. Club Champion, they have them in every major city, or most major cities in the United States. So most likely you live within a couple 100 miles of one. You can go to their website. I'm guessing it's clubchampion.com, or you can just Google Club Champion, and you can search for Club Champion locations in your area. Well, like I said, I don't have any affiliation with Club Champion. I've just been there and had good experience, and I've heard other people have good experience too. All right, so I'll make sure I'm not skipping over anybody. All right, so that was David. All right, so Graham C says, "Hi Q, I find it really difficult to not hit from the top. Are there any drills for holding pressure, lag, and arms until arms are parallel and straight line release kicks in. What I'd recommend doing is working through the Top Speed lag course. That's what I'd be recommending you do. It's definitely a difficult thing to get over. If you're used to just swinging all arms and throwing the club and releasing your lag, casting from the top, it's going to take some time and some repetition to work through that. It's not something that you're going to be able to go out in one range session and get over. It's going to take likely thousands of reps to get over that. So, it's like you can't ever get rid of a habit. You can only create new habits to overcome the old ones. So that's basically what you're trying to do when you're working through the system. So I would be going to the Top Speed lag course and working through those drills, doing the getting the reps in, doing the reps, the progression drill in there. I believe it's in level 1 of the Top Speed lag course. Working through that progression is going to be the best thing that you can do. So just trying to get the feeling of letting the hands kind of lead the club. That's that first progression, is just getting the feeling of allowing the hands to kind of lead the club. Then the second progression, you actually start out with some shorter swings where you're getting the hands to kind of lead the club. So you're getting some lag in a really short swing, then you build it longer and longer and longer. That's what I'd recommend working through and just keep working at it. It's going to take some time, but just keep on working at it. Get a little bit better every single day with it. And it will start to get better and better and better and better. So a lot of people underestimate how much they can get over how much improvement they can make over a long period of time. But everyone overestimates how much progress they should make in one short period of time. So I'm telling you, if you work on this, if you have a net or something like that, a mat and a net where you can just go work on this for 15 to 30 minutes a day, you may not make huge progress from session to session to session. But I'm telling you, if you do that for 2 or 3 straight weeks, you will make a huge improvement in what you're working on if you stick to it and get the reps in with it. So like I said, people always overestimate how much progress they should make in one session over a short period of time, but they always underestimate how much progress they can make over a long period of time. And if you stick with it and make micro improvements every single time you work on it, then it will add up over time to a macro improvement. So that's what I'd recommend doing. Go to the Top Speed lag course, select the instruction tab at the top, then go to the Top Speed Golf system, then do the Top Speed lag and work through that progression, work through the drills, and it will get you on your way. All right, so Steve B says, hi Q, I'm working through the stable fluid spine section of TSG. How tall should I be trying to stay field during the backswing? I'm coming back coming from stack and tilt type swing where I really dipped my front shoulder during the backswing. So what I'd be trying to feel like is that you're staying fairly level and that you're keeping your shoulders on the same plane. All right, so what we don't want to do is we don't want to come up to the top and have our shoulders level. And you can see there how my head raised up. So I would be trying to feel like your shoulders are basically staying pointed down toward the ground. And you're not dipping way down like this, right? There may be a little bit of downward movement of the head, but we don't want to be raising up. A little bit of downward movement or level with the head is what I'd be trying to feel like. So the best way, if you're having trouble with this, there's a great drill on the website. It's called the shoulder to shoulder drill, where you put the club across your shoulders like that, and you can work through that if you're getting to where the shoulders are getting level as you go up to the top. Basically, the way that I would try to feel a good visual, if you've read the Ben Hogan book, I'll tell you how to get to that drill here in a second. But if you read the 5 Lessons book by Ben Hogan, it's a great read if you want to check it out. But basically, what he talked about is he imagined that there was a plane of glass that went from the golf ball and sat on top of his shoulders. And his head just kind of went through a hole in that plane of glass. And what he imagined is that his shoulders turned on that plane. So you can see there, when I turn my shoulders steeply like that, I don't raise up out of the swing. I keep my head kind of moving. My head moves down actually just a little bit, which is fine. So that's not literally what's going on. Your shoulders really aren't turning, that steep, but that's a good visual especially for people who are doing this, right? It's a great visual for those who are turning and getting their shoulders to level. So you can kind of think about that. And that's the same thing in the downswing. Your shoulders actually turn steeper in the downswing. So it'd be a good feeling to think, okay, I'm turning my shoulders on that plane of glass in the downswing, or sorry, in the backswing. And then in the downswing, I'm turning my shoulders on that plane of glass as well. They can keep you very neutral, like your shoulders are swinging on that same plane that's kind of steep down to the golf ball. It's a good feeling to have. To kind of work on this with some visuals, that shoulder to shoulder drill is a really good one. To find that drill, use the search box in the upper right hand corner. If you're on a laptop, desktop computer, something like that, you'll find the little search box. Select that and search shoulder to shoulder. The word to, not the number, shoulder to shoulder. And then if you're on a mobile device, select the icon in the upper right hand corner. That will expand a menu. Scroll down the bottom of that menu, you'll find the search box there. You can search shoulder to shoulder from there. So David F says, it may be easier. David F says, it may be easier to answer why you chose what you use. Really sorry to say I don't have great confidence in local fitters. I went and got fitted. So I didn't do anything special. This is just a normal wedge. I don't get into all the different grinds and stuff. I mean, people have been playing great golf for a long time without all these special grinds. I just have, like, this particular is a 56 degree with 8 degrees of bounce. It's a fairly standard amount of bounce. What I play now actually has a little bit more bounce, but that's it. I just play something very standard. I don't mess around with having a bunch of different grinds and things like that. And this is very standard Vokey wedge. It's what I used in college. It's just what I keep in my office here to demonstrate stuff. I have the Ping Glide wedge now. Basically, it's dang near the exact same as far as the grind and everything on it. But yeah, I wouldn't get too. I think people are getting a little bit too obsessed with the equipment. I would just find something that you really like the look of. That's basically, how I chose my wedge is, one, I got fitted. And during the fitting, it wasn't anything that was, I actually went to the Ping headquarters and got fitted. When Clay went and got fitted for clubs, I went and got fitted for some as well. And they had two different, or they had three different kinds of wedges, and I hit a few of them, and really I liked the Ping Glide. I think they're the 3.0 or 2.0, I can't remember, and they're the black finish on them. I like the way that they felt. I got good spin response on them, and I just used the bounce that I've always used, and that's why I chose what I chose. But if I went and got like a really in-depth kind of fitting, it's possible that it may be better if I had something else. But it's really, would it make that much of a difference in my game? No, not really. Most likely, no. So I wouldn't expect, getting different wedges or whatever to be a game changer. You're going to adapt to your equipment, but I will say in general, I would make sure to get enough. That's the main thing with wedges. I often see with people is that they don't get enough bounce on their wedges. So it makes it a little bit difficult to hit certain shots. So, people are afraid of seeing that leading edge off the ground a little bit, because if there's more bounce, but I wouldn't be afraid of that. More bounce is going to help you to get through the turf. It's going to give you more margin for error. So that's generally what I see is, a lot of people, when they look down and they get a wedge, they like to see that leading edge sitting on the ground underneath the golf ball. Visually, it's comforting, right? Because you feel like when you have a wedge with a lot of bounce, you see the leading edge is kind of lifted off of the ground a little bit, and it's not comforting, right? You feel like you might blade it. But if you use correct technique with your wedges, you're not going to blade it. In fact, I think it was the other day or a couple weeks ago, they had that course that Paynes Valley that they opened up, Rory actually, he was on a part of the green where he couldn't putt it because he would have to like go through the rough or whatever. So he hit a wedge from over there. He actually hit a pitch shot. And if you watch his pitch shot, he actually opened the face a little bit and exposed the bounce. I mean, the leading edge of the club was a 1/4 inch off the ground, and he picked it right off the top of that because he used the correct technique. So I wouldn't be afraid of more bounce because typically less bounce is going to make things more difficult for you because that's just you're just asking for that leading edge dig. You have to be more precise with your shot. You don't have as much margin for error. So it's going to be a little bit harder to hit through the sand. So that'd be my main thing is I would just try to, if you're not wanting to get fitted, I wouldn't go just the standard. You don't want to mess with the time or whatever to get fitted, or you don't want to pay for it or whatever it might be. I would just go with the standard, grind. It's not going to make that big of a difference. And I would just make sure you get plenty of bounce. So on a 56 degree, 8 to 10 degrees of bounce, I think is a good medium range. Somewhere in that area. As you get more the low, so if you get a 50 degree wedge, you can have a little bit less bounce. But on your higher degrees, so like your 56, the ones that you're going to be pitching and hitting sand shots with, so like a 54, 56, 58, 60, whatever it might be, I would venture toward more of the 8 to 10 degree of bounce that I think is a good area to be. I think my current wedge is 10 degrees of bounce on my 54 and my 58 degree. So Louis V says, we'll answer a couple more here and then we'll wrap up. So Louis V says, Q, I'm working from home, so I wasn't able to pay attention when you answered the question on the backswing. So if you have time, can you review it again? Louis, you can go back and watch the, if you ever miss your question or something like that, I archive all of these. So after the office hours here, you can watch the archived office hours. All you have to do is go to the office hours highlights page. So click office hours at the top and then click office hours highlights. And then you can find the playlist for the archived ones there. So last question here says, Dwayne M says, I have an overpowering desire to kill the ball each time I address it. Are there any drills that can help with the huge problem? What I'd recommend doing is working on the lag course, right? Because I assume you're talking about you get up to the top and you just kind of throw your arms at it and cast the club. So what I'd be working on is the lag course, the top speed lag system. To get to the top speed lag system, click the instruction tab at the top of the screen. That'll take you to, or click the instruction tab, then click the top speed golf system, then click the top speed lag course. And if you get that club kind of working behind you a little bit more, you can use that power that you have to your advantage and get that club whipping through there a little bit better. So hopefully that helps. I'll be back here tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Everybody have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to y'all next time.